Is it time for recess yet? I'm so glad you found time to join us here on the Childcare Director's Chair, where Erica Saccoccio shares her best practices that she's refined through her passion of directing childcare centers over the last 23 years. From parenting interaction, systems to save you time, money, and stress, to profitability. She shares it all from the Childcare Director's Chair.
Hello, welcome back. I hope that you are enjoying this week's series on the hiring process, onboarding, holding interviews, how to craft a Hope Wanted ad. There's a lot of content on the hiring and onboarding process over the next week or two. And so with that, I wanted to talk specifically about the interview process and give you some questions that you can ask. Maybe you're like, gee, I really don't know, what to ask. I'm kind of new at this. Many of you don't have a large HR team. I know I don't, and I have 3 locations. And somewhere around 42 staff, depending on the season. Summertime, we add a few more team members, so we are kind of quickly approaching that time of year. So we have started the interviewing process as well to bring on some additional folks, especially as our teachers are getting ready for their summer vacation time where they're off with their families. So in that case, we all need new teachers to fill in. So we are in the interviewing process ourselves. So I thought I would share 20 interview questions that I really like, and I feel like they have really helped us select the right candidates for our program. So the first is, I would say, I like to look at their personal background experience. So 3 of my favorite questions look like, tell us about your background and experience in childcare. And I'd like to know a little bit about them too. And I really say, when you say, tell me about you, they usually start with, well, I've worked in the field. I'm like, no, I want to know about you. Tell me about you. What do you do that's fun? What brought you to the field? What do you do? What do you do when you're not at work? What are your hobbies? I really like to know a lot about them personally and their experience in the childcare field and maybe how those things come together, what hobbies they have that maybe could be transferred over into the classroom. I love to hear great stories. So another question I really enjoy is, describe your most memorable success as a child care professional. A lot of times we'll hear when they come in for an interview how they hated their last job or, some kind of negative things. I'd like them to really reflect on their time more positively and what came from that time at the previous center, or a memorable time that made them think, hey, gee, I think I would be great at working with children. This might be my first time applying, first time in a center, but here's why I think I would be great, because XYZ happened in my life. Or share an example of how you handled a challenging situation with a child, a family, coworker, boss, and everybody always is ready to tell you this story there. But I think it is, nice to know how they handle challenges. Then I like to learn a little bit more about their expertise in child development. So child development and education. So maybe something like, explain your understanding of child development and how it informs your approach to childcare. We definitely need to have teachers who have a deep understanding of child development. They have to understand that 2-year-olds are not going to act like 5-year-olds, right? They have to have that understanding of basic child development. Or how do you create a safe and nurturing environment for children? And safety is so important to me. I know it's important to you. So you really have to understand and assess, how do they keep kids safe? What experiences do they have around keeping kids safe, keeping them healthy? I also like to ask them, describe your favorite age group to work with and why. And I think although we love all of our students, I think that all of us have an age group or 2 that they prefer to work with. So I want to know why they like that age group. What is it about that age group that they find interesting? And for my toddler teachers out there, I call you very rare unicorns, because I would say out of 100 interviews, I would be lucky if 15 of them say, I love working with toddlers. It's usually, I want to work with the babies and rock them, and they're so cute, and I love watching them, go through so many changes and milestones in the short 12 months that they're in a classroom. Or I really love planning curriculum and being able to teach in a more academic setting. I really love preschool. I love, aligning domains and doing assessments and all the things. And let's face it, toddlers, they're fast, they're quick, they They love to take risks, and they keep you on your toes for sure. So I always love to hear why people have a favorite age group and why. What is it about that age group that they just absolutely love? And if you have a favorite age group, I would love for you to hop on over to our Facebook page, join the conversation, and let us know what's your favorite age group to work with and why. Then I like to assess and ask questions around safety and regulations, such as what are your responsibilities for ensuring the safety of children in your care, and to understand what they know about current regulations and safety practices. I also would ask them, describe your knowledge of childcare regulations and policies. So if they have worked in another center previously, they may have a good understanding of the regulations. But if they've never worked in a childcare center, they're going to have probably no understanding at all. And they certainly need to know all of the requirements, particularly in the classroom setting, because they're the ones in the room all day. So an example would be to know that you're not allowed to put anything in an evacuation crib. It has to be empty at all times. Now, I don't know if that's a regulation in every state, but I know it's a regulation in Rhode Island. So things like that, making sure that soap and water and bleach and water and cleaning supplies are always put up out of children's reach in a locked cabinet. Do teachers know that, right? So understanding where are they with their knowledge of the childcare regulations. Another question I really love is, how do you prevent and respond to accidents or emergencies? And ask them to give you an example. Give me an example of a time that you had to respond to an emergency or an accident. I can tell you one. Oh my God, it was quite a few years ago, but there was a preschooler who decided to lean on a chair and he fell forward and he bit his tongue. And he bit his tongue very severely to the point we needed to call 911. We met his parent at the hospital. But it was, my team was fast acting. I was on site. I was able to go in the ambulance with the child and meet the parent at the hospital. But you need to know that if there is an emergency or an accident, that the person will be able to react calmly, will know what to do in terms of first aid, CPR, and the policies on how we contact parents, when do we contact emergency responders, and all of those things. So you want to get a good understanding if that has ever happened to them before, and do they know what to do. You want to ask some questions around how they are as a caregiver. So ask them to explain their philosophy on discipline and how they implement it fairly. And I think that's also a good time to kind of talk a little bit about the philosophy at your center and your policies around discipline or positive redirection, or however you word it in your program, but redirection. Or how do you promote healthy eating and physical activity for children? Is a teacher coming in every day with a donut and a latte or a salad and water, right? You want to know, how do they think about what they do and what they share in their classroom in terms of health, nutrition, food, sleep, water, all the things that keep us healthy and alive. Or describe your approach to potty training or diaper changing. So if you have a teacher who says, I don't change diapers, that's why I like the preschool room, and your program doesn't require children to be potty trained to enter the preschool room, you might want to let that teacher know that. And if you don't ask that question, you would not know that prior to hiring her, getting her in her classroom, and then she says to you, oh no, I don't do diapers. I thought this was preschool. Right? Or pre-K, depending on what you have at your program. So I think it's really important to ask questions like that and what their stance is on potty training. And maybe ask them some success stories as well. Tell me when you were successful with a student who had a challenging time with potty training. How did you handle it? What did you do? How did you communicate with the family? That type of thing. I also want to know about their professionalism and their development in terms of what their goals are. So maybe a question like, what are your goals for your career in childcare in the next year, the next 5 years? Or perhaps you're going to ask, how do you stay up to date on best practice in professional development? Do they have a professional development account? Is there a training that they use for the state? In Rhode Island, we have the Center for Early Learning Professionals. There's also Pro Solutions. So they may already have an account. You may be able to ask them on your phone interview if they could please bring in any professional development they have taken within the year. And that will give you a good idea of what they've had most recently. Or are you willing to participate in training and supervision. So that will let you know how much they like feedback from your education coordinator or the administrators in the program in terms of supervision. I also like to ask teachers, what type of supervision do they like? What type of feedback do they like? How often? How frequent? Some people don't like when someone sits in the room and observes with the clipboard. It can kind of be intimidating. Well, if you have cameras, you can also do observations through the camera so that it doesn't make anybody feel nervous or anxious, right? So there's lots of ways to do that. Other teachers want you to come in the room. They want you to give them feedback and be in that room with the clipboard. So ask your staff when you're, or applicant, ask them what do they like best? And then you can match it up to meet their needs and yours. And then also availability. What is your work availability? And then I would also ask them, do they foresee in the near future that may change drastically? Because I do feel that has happened to me a couple of times, which is why it's so important to ask, where do you see yourself in the year and so forth. I've had people who we've hired and then, a month and a half in, they're like, oh, I've decided I'm going to go to school for blah, blah, blah. And I need Mondays and Fridays off. And I'm sure that I can't be the only one who that's happened to. So, try to really get a good understanding of at least the next 12 months of what that's going to look like for them. Because we know kids need stability and consistency. So do the co-teachers and the parents. They certainly don't like a lot of turnaround or turnover with staff. So really try to get a grasp of where this person is at. And then also asking, with growth, what are their salary expectations as they move up the ranks? So those are a few questions that I think could be helpful to help you. I know that they've helped me, but to help you just get a good understanding of where they are in many different areas. So, the personal background, child development, communication and interpersonal skills, safety regulations, how they are as a caregiver, their professionalism, and their ability to work when you need them to work. So I hope that those tips were really helpful. I hope that you can implement some of those questions in your next interview. And if you do, please let me know how it goes. Hop on over to our Facebook page and let us know what you think. So as always, thank you for tuning in. This has been the Childcare Director's Chair. I'm your host, Erica Saccoccio. And as always, have a great day.
Well, all the cute little kiddos have been picked up and it's time to go home. And that'll do it for another episode of the Childcare Director's Chair. Please leave a review so Erica knows the information is helping you to manage and improve your childcare centers. Remember to subscribe to get the latest episode from Erica's Childcare Director's Chair.